Let me start with a very honest question. Have you ever felt tired, even after doing nothing? That tiredness is not of the body. That is the fatigue of laziness. Stay with me till the end, especially the last lessons, because they can quietly transform the way you live every single day. Many of us are not lazy by nature. We are ambitious in our thoughts, but inactive in our actions. We dream big, we plan beautifully, we imagine success vividly, but when it comes to doing the small daily work, something inside us says, tomorrow, and slowly, tomorrow becomes a habit. Not because we are incapable, but because we are disconnected from purpose, discipline, and awareness. Today, I don't want to scold laziness. I want to understand it, because once you understand laziness, it loses its power over you. Now let us begin this inner journey, step by step. Let us begin gently, honestly, without labels and without judgment. Most people wake up every morning believing they are lazy. They carry this silent guilt. Something is wrong with me. I lack energy, I lack drive. But laziness is rarely the real disease. It is only a symptom. The real issue hides deeper, quieter, and far more subtle. It is confusion. Think about this for a moment. When you are absolutely clear about something, when your train is about to leave in 10 minutes, when someone you love needs you urgently, when your phone battery is at 1% and you need to save an important file, suddenly there is no laziness. Energy appears from nowhere. Speed increases, focus sharpens. So where did laziness go? It didn't disappear. It was never there to begin with. Laziness thrives in unclear lives. When the mind does not know why it should act, it negotiates delay. It says, let's do it later. Not because it is tired, but because it is unconvinced. The mind is extremely practical. If it cannot see meaning, it will conserve energy. It will resist effort. It will choose comfort. Many young people tell me, I don't feel motivated. I ask them simple questions. What kind of life do you want to live? What do you want to contribute? What would make you feel proud of yourself 10 years from now? And often there is silence, not because they are incapable of answering, but because no one ever taught them to pause and reflect. Life kept moving, expectations kept coming, comparisons kept increasing. Somewhere along the way, clarity was replaced by noise. When purpose is missing, even small tasks feel heavy. Waking up feels exhausting. Studying feels meaningless. Working feels mechanical. And slowly, a person starts calling this emptiness laziness. But let me tell you something very important. You are not lazy. You are disconnected. Disconnected from meaning. Disconnected from direction. Disconnected from a reason that makes effort worthwhile. Imagine walking on a road without knowing where it leads. Every step would feel pointless. But if you knew that road leads to a beautiful destination, you would walk even if your legs hurt. Clarity transforms effort into enthusiasm. This is why some people work 14 hours a day without complaining, while others feel drained after doing almost nothing. It is not about stamina. It is about significance. Laziness increases when life becomes reactive instead of intentional. When days are spent only responding to messages, deadlines, pressure, opinions, the soul feels lost. And when the soul feels lost, the body refuses to cooperate. The mind asks a silent question before every action. Why should I do this? If the answer is weak, action becomes weak. That is why punishment doesn't cure laziness. Pressure doesn't cure laziness. Shouting at yourself doesn't cure laziness. Only clarity does. Clarity about who you want to become. Clarity about what truly matters to you. Clarity about what kind of pain you are willing to tolerate, because growth always demands some discomfort. Once clarity enters, Laziness exits quietly, no drama, no fight. You don't need to overhaul your entire life today. You only need to sit with yourself honestly and ask, what am I actually living for right now? Not what society expects, not what looks impressive on social media, but what genuinely feels meaningful to you. Even a small answer is enough to begin. Direction is more important than speed. When the heart has a direction, the body finds the energy. This is the first shift. And it is powerful because once confusion starts dissolving, discipline becomes easier, effort feels lighter, and life slowly starts moving forward again, not forcefully but purposefully. And this is only the beginning. Let us go deeper because now we touch the place where most people unknowingly sabotage themselves. Once clarity begins to form, people make a very common mistake. They say, now I just need motivation. They wait, they scroll, they watch videos, they listen to speeches, they hope to feel like doing the work, and days pass, weeks pass, nothing changes. Because motivation is not a foundation, it is a fluctuation. Motivation is emotional, discipline is spiritual. Motivation depends on mood, discipline depends on values. If you build your life on motivation, your life will move only on good days. And good days are unpredictable. Some mornings you wake up inspired, some mornings you wake up empty. If your actions depend on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you wait for motivation? Do you say, today I don't feel inspired to brush? No, you do it because it is non-negotiable. That is discipline. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It is about being honest with yourself. It is the understanding that future you depends on present you keeping promises. Many people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means force, restriction, suffering. That is not true. Discipline is alignment. Alignment between what you say you want and what you actually do. Laziness survives in negotiation. Discipline ends negotiation. The lazy mind says, let's see how I feel. The disciplined mind says, this is what needs to be done. And here is a truth most people don't realize. Discipline actually creates motivation, not the other way around. When you start acting even without feeling like it, something magical happens. Momentum builds. Self-respect grows, confidence increases, and suddenly motivation appears as a byproduct, action first, emotion later. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop, because readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. Life rewards those who show up even when it is inconvenient. Let me share something very practical. The mind is like a child. If you ask it, do you want NT to work? It will say no. But if you say, we will work for just 10 minutes, it often agrees. Once started, resistance weakens. Discipline works because it removes choice. It simplifies life. Highly disciplined people don't have more willpower. They have fewer decisions. They don't wake up debating whether to exercise, study, pray, or focus. The decision has already been made in advance. Laziness drains energy because decision-making drains energy. Every time you debate with yourself, you exhaust yourself before even beginning. Discipline conserves energy by eliminating inner arguments. This is why routines are powerful. A routine is discipline on autopilot. When you design your day intentionally, you don't fight laziness repeatedly, you bypass it. But discipline must be compassionate, not cruel. Don't create unrealistic schedules that punish you. That leads to burnout and guilt. Discipline should stretch you slightly, not break you completely. Consistency matters far more than intensity. 5 disciplined actions repeated daily will outperform 50 motivated actions done occasionally. Remember this, motivation asks, how do I feel today? Discipline asks, who do I want to become? Every time you act despite resistance, you send a message to your mind, I am in charge. That message slowly kills laziness at its root. And something beautiful happens when discipline becomes part of your identity. You stop relying on external pushes. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting. You become dependable to yourself. This is inner strength, quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need applause. And once discipline enters your life, comfort will start feeling dangerous instead of attractive, which brings us naturally to the next inner shift. The subtle trap that keeps laziness alive even in capable people. Let us continue, because now we arrive at a place that feels pleasant on the surface but is deeply destructive underneath. Comfort does not announce itself as a problem. It arrives softly. It says, relax, you deserve this. And that sentence repeated every day slowly steals a person's future. Comfort is addictive because it gives instant relief. But instant relief often comes at the cost of long-term growth. Look closely at laziness, and you will often find comfort sitting beside it. A warm bed, endless entertainment, easy food, minimal effort, no deadlines, no accountability. None of these things are wrong by themselves. The danger begins when comfort becomes the default way of living. Human beings are designed to grow through challenges. Muscles grow by resistance. Character grows by responsibility. Wisdom grows by discomfort. When life becomes too easy, the inner muscles begin to weaken. This is why many people feel tired despite living comfortable lives. The body is relaxed, but the soul is unstimulated. Comfort numbs urgency when everything is available instantly. Effort feels unnecessary. When there is no pressure, time feels infinite. And when time feels infinite, procrastination feels harmless. But procrastination is never harmless. It silently compounds. Comfort creates a false sense of safety. It convinces you that there is no need to push today. But life does not reward comfort. It rewards preparation. Think of a student who studies only when exams are close. Comfort tells them there is still time. Then suddenly time disappears. Panic arrives. Regret follows. But regret cannot replace discipline. Laziness is not always inactivity. Sometimes it is activity in the wrong direction. Consuming instead of creating, escaping instead of facing, resting instead of preparing. The most dangerous comfort is mental comfort, the comfort of excuses. I work better under pressure, I'm just not in the right mood. I'll start when things settle down. Things never settle down. Life is movement, life is chaos. Waiting for perfect conditions is another form of comfort seeking. Growth begins the moment you choose discomfort consciously, waking up a little earlier than you want, saying no to distractions, doing the difficult task first, staying consistent when results are invisible. These small discomforts train the mind to respect effort. Here is a powerful truth. If you don't choose discomfort intentionally, life will choose it for you later. In the form of regret, stress, and lost potential. Comfort delays pain. Discipline processes it early. People often ask, how do I escape laziness? The answer is simple but not easy. Reduce unnecessary comfort, not by punishing yourself, but by challenging yourself. Replace 1 hour of mindless consumption with 1 hour of focused creation. Replace excuses with honest self-talk. Replace ease with effort, just a little. You don't need to suffer. You need to stretch. Comfort zones are beautifully decorated prisons. They feel safe, but they limit movement. The door is always open, but laziness convinces you not to walk out. The moment you voluntarily step into challenge, something shifts internally. confidence grows, energy increases, respect for self deepens, and slowly laziness starts losing its grip. Because laziness is not strong, it is only comfortable. Once you understand this, you stop asking, "Why am I lazy?" You start asking, "What comfort am I protecting?" And that question alone begins the transformation. Now, as comfort loosens its hold, the mind becomes ready for action. Not big dramatic action, but something far more powerful and sustainable. Now we move into a shift that sounds simple, almost insignificant, yet it is where laziness truly begins to collapse. Most people don't fail because they aim too low. They fail because they aim too high and then never begin. The lazy mind loves grand plans. I will wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I will study 6 hours daily. I will completely change my life starting Monday. And then Monday arrives and nothing happens. Why? Because the plan was never designed for reality. It was designed for ego. Laziness is not defeated by dramatic intention. It is defeated by small, consistent action. The mind fears big change. It associates it with pain, effort, and loss of comfort. So when the goal feels overwhelming, the mind resists starting at all. Procrastination becomes self-protection. This is why starting small is not weakness. It is wisdom. 5 minutes of focused effort is more powerful than 5 hours of planned effort that never happens. When you lower the entry barrier, the mind stops fighting. When the mind stops fighting, action begins. Think of a heavy door. If you push it violently, it resists. But if you apply steady pressure, it slowly opens. Human behavior works the same way. Laziness survives on someday. Action lives in today. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a reliable one. You don't need massive discipline. You need repeatable discipline. One page, one paragraph, one stretch, one honest effort. Small actions create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. And consistency quietly rewires identity. This is something people overlook. Laziness is often an identity problem. I am a lazy person. I never stick to things, but identity is shaped by evidence. Every small action becomes proof against that old story. When you show up today, even briefly, you tell your mind, I am someone who starts, and starting is far more important than finishing in the early stages. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Laziness hides behind perfectionism. If I can't do it properly, why start at all? That is not high standards. That is fear in disguise. Action does not require readiness. It requires willingness. Today's effort does not need to be impressive. It needs to be honest. And here is something very important. Start before you feel confident. Confidence is the reward, not the requirement. Many people wait for energy. Energy comes after movement. Many people wait for clarity. Clarity comes after action. When you act, the fog lifts. The smallest action done now is more powerful than the biggest intention delayed. Make your goals embarrassingly easy to begin. If you want to read, open the book. If you want to meditate, sit for 1 minute. If you want to exercise, wear your shoes. Lower the resistance, not the ambition. Over time, small steps become strong habits, and habits become identity, and identity makes laziness irrelevant. This is how change becomes sustainable, not through intensity but through consistency. Once action becomes normal, responsibility naturally follows. And that is where the next transformation begins. Because responsibility awakens a kind of energy that comfort can never provide. Now something very powerful begins to happen. Something that laziness cannot survive for long. The moment a person accepts responsibility, energy awakens. Not external motivation, not pressure from others, but inner energy. Laziness feeds on blame. Responsibility starves it. As long as we believe our life is controlled by parents, circumstances, luck, economy, society, or past mistakes, the mind quietly relaxes. It says, then why try so hard? Blame gives the ego comfort. Responsibility gives the soul strength. Many people don't realize this, but victimhood is exhausting. Complaining drains more energy than effort ever will. When you constantly explain why things are not working, you unconsciously convince yourself that action is pointless. Responsibility changes the inner dialogue. Instead of saying, "This is happening to me," you begin to say, "This is my life." That single shift is transformative. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting to be rescued. You stop waiting for perfect support. You stop waiting for validation. You begin working with what you have, where you are, and suddenly laziness feels inappropriate because responsibility creates urgency. Think about a parent caring for a child. They may be tired, they may be overwhelmed, but laziness rarely shows up. Why? Because responsibility activates commitment. The mind doesn't debate, it acts. This is why people often work harder for others than for themselves. Responsibility for others feels real. Responsibility for self feels optional, until you consciously choose it. True maturity begins the day you stop saying, "Someone should fix this," and start saying, "I will handle this," not because it is easy, but because it is yours. Laziness is comfortable when the consequences feel distant. Responsibility brings consequences close. It makes time visible. It makes choices matter. Once you accept responsibility, excuses lose their charm. They no longer protect you. They expose you. Responsibility is not about guilt. It is about ownership. You are not responsible for everything that happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do next. This understanding is liberating. When you stop blaming the past, you reclaim the present. When you reclaim the present, you shape the future. Many people say, "I don't feel like doing it." Responsibility says it needs to be done. And here is the paradox. The more responsibility you take, the lighter you feel. Because carrying excuses is heavier than carrying effort. Excuses keep you stuck in the same mental loop. Responsibility moves you forward, even if slowly. Start small. Take responsibility for your mornings, for your time, for your reactions, for your habits, for your growth. Don't wait for accountability from the outside. Become accountable to yourself. Ask yourself powerful questions. What can I do today despite my limitations? What is within my control right now? What small responsibility am I avoiding? The answers may be uncomfortable, but discomfort is the doorway to growth. Once responsibility becomes a habit, laziness starts feeling foreign. You no longer identify as someone who delays. You begin to see yourself as someone who responds. Responsibility gives dignity to effort. Even failure feels meaningful when you know you showed up sincerely. And something even deeper happens. Self-trust begins to grow. When you take responsibility and act consistently, you start trusting yourself again. And self-trust is the enemy of laziness. Because laziness thrives when you don't trust yourself to follow through. Responsibility rebuilds that trust, quietly, steadily. This is not about becoming rigid or harsh. It is about becoming reliable. Reliable to your time. Reliable to your values. Reliable to your future. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for life to change. You become the change. And now, as responsibility stabilizes your actions, something even more subtle begins to dissolve. The inner resistance that comes from emptiness, disconnection, and lack of meaning. We enter a space that many people ignore, not because it is unimportant, but because it is invisible. There is a kind of laziness that discipline cannot fully cure. There is a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot fix. There is a kind of resistance that logic cannot explain. That resistance comes from inner emptiness. When life becomes only about productivity, comparison, and survival, the soul quietly disconnects. You may be busy all day yet feel strangely unfulfilled. You may be doing the right things yet feel no inner pull to continue. And slowly, enthusiasm fades. What we call laziness is often the heart saying something deeper is missing. Human beings are not machines. We don't run only on schedules and goals. We run on meaning. When there is no connection to something higher than the self, whether you call it God, purpose, truth, service, or consciousness, effort begins to feel dry, mechanical, heavy. This is why people with less resources but deeper faith often have more energy than people with endless facilities but no inner anchor. Their actions are fueled not just by ambition but by devotion. Spiritual connection does not mean renouncing the world. It means remembering why you are living in it. When you pause, reflect, pray, meditate, or simply express gratitude, something subtle shifts. The mind slows down, the heart softens, and the inner resistance that fuels laziness begins to dissolve. Why? Because laziness thrives in unconscious living. When days pass without awareness, life feels repetitive, monotonous, meaningless, and the mind rebels through avoidance. Spiritual connection brings awareness back. It reminds you that time is limited, that life is fragile, that your existence is not random. And when awareness deepens, urgency becomes natural, not stressful but sacred. You stop asking, how can I escape work? You start asking, how can I use this life well? That question alone changes everything. Many people feel lazy because they are disconnected from gratitude. When you forget that life itself is a gift, effort feels like a burden. But when gratitude returns, effort feels like an opportunity. Gratitude energizes the soul. When you remember how much you have already been given, breath, ability, opportunity, guidance, wasting time begins to feel disrespectful, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Spiritual connection also dissolves ego-driven pressure. Laziness is sometimes a reaction to excessive self-centered ambition. I must prove myself. I must win. I must be ahead. That pressure exhausts the mind. When you reconnect spiritually, you realize you are not here only to compete. You are here to contribute. Contribution creates energy. Service creates momentum. Purpose creates resilience. Even the smallest act done with the feeling of service carries a different quality. It feels lighter, cleaner, more alive. This is why people who serve others selflessly rarely complain of laziness. Their energy flows outward, not inward. Self-absorption drains energy. Self-transcendence restores it. Spiritual practices are not escapes from responsibility. They are fuel for responsibility. A few minutes of silence can save hours of distraction. A few moments of prayer can clarify an entire day. A few breaths of awareness can dissolve resistance that discipline alone cannot touch. This is not about rituals. It is about remembrance. Remembering that your life matters. Remembering that your actions matter. Remembering that every day is a chance to grow, give, and become better. When this remembrance is alive, laziness finds no place to hide. You may still feel tired sometimes, you may still rest, but you no longer feel empty, and that makes all the difference, because laziness is not always about doing nothing. Often it is about forgetting why you are doing anything at all. When purpose returns to the heart, energy returns to action. And now with clarity, discipline, challenge, small action, responsibility, and inner connection aligned, we arrive at the final truth that seals everything. This last understanding decides whether laziness returns or leaves permanently. Now we come to the final realization, the one that quietly governs all the others. Time, not money, not talent, not intelligence. Time is the only resource you are spending every second, whether you are aware of it or not. Laziness is not just delay, it is unconscious spending of time. Time is deeply impartial. It does not care about your intentions, your excuses, your struggles, or your potential. It simply moves forward. And it rewards those who respect it, not emotionally but mathematically. Every postponed action becomes a postponed result. Every delayed effort becomes a delayed life. Most people think laziness is about rest. It is not. Rest is conscious. Laziness is unconscious. Rest restores energy. Laziness leaks it. When you respect time, you stop asking, how much can I escape today? You start asking, how can I invest today? Investment thinking changes behavior. You no longer waste hours mindlessly because you understand something crucial. Time does not come in big chunks. Life is lost in small leaks. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I'll do it later. Later quietly becomes never. Respecting time does not mean becoming anxious or rushed. It means becoming present. When you are present, you naturally act. Laziness thrives in distraction. Presence dissolves it. People who respect time design their days intentionally. They don't let the day use them. They use the day. They decide in advance what deserves attention. This is why planning is not control, it is clarity. When you plan, you remove uncertainty. When you remove uncertainty, the mind relaxes. And a relaxed, clear mind does not resist action. Time respect also brings humility. You realize you are not as young as you think, not as permanent as you assume. This is not fear, this is awareness. Awareness sharpens priorities. Suddenly, trivial distractions lose appeal. You stop postponing meaningful conversations. You stop delaying important work. You stop saying someday to the things that matter most. You understand that laziness is not stealing your productivity. It is stealing your life. And once you truly understand that, something irreversible happens inside. You no longer need external pressure. You no longer need reminders. You no longer need motivation. You act because not acting feels costly. Time becomes sacred. Every morning feels like a fresh account deposited into your life. And every night becomes a quiet audit. Not to judge yourself, but to learn. Respecting time also brings compassion. You stop wasting other people's time. You show up fully. You listen attentively. You work sincerely. You rest properly. Even rest becomes meaningful when time is respected. Laziness dissolves not through force, but through awareness of consequence. When you realize that every delayed effort delays the person you are meant to become, urgency becomes natural. And urgency does not mean stress, it means sincerity. Now bring everything together. Clarity gives direction. Discipline gives structure. Challenge builds strength. Small action builds momentum. Responsibility builds dignity. Spiritual connection builds meaning. And respect for time seals it all. Laziness cannot survive in a life lived consciously. It survives only where life is lived unconsciously. So don't fight laziness aggressively, outgrow it consciously. Start today, not dramatically, not perfectly, but sincerely, because the quality of your life will never be decided by your intentions. It will always be decided by what you consistently do with your time. And when you honor time, life honors you back. At the end of the day, laziness is not defeated by force, it is defeated by awareness. When you become aware of why you are here, what truly matters, and how precious each day is, delay naturally loses its grip on you. You don't need to become extraordinary overnight, you only need to become conscious today. Conscious of your time, conscious of your choices, conscious of the silent future you are building every day. Remember, life does not change when you feel ready, life changes when you act responsibly, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is not about controlling life, it is about honoring life. Comfort whispers, relax. Purpose whispers, rise. And every day, you choose which voice becomes your destiny. So begin now, not with pressure, not with guilt, but with gratitude. Because when you respect the gift of this life, laziness quietly disappears, and a meaningful, powerful, peaceful journey begins. At the deepest level, remember this one truth: life is not asking you to be perfect. Life is asking you to be present. Every day you wake up is not an accident. It is a reminder that you are still needed, still capable, still responsible. Time is not waiting for you to feel ready. It is inviting you to live consciously. When you remember God, you remember discipline. When you remember gratitude, effort becomes light. When you remember purpose, laziness loses meaning. You don't rise in life by doing extraordinary things once in a while. You rise by doing ordinary things with sincerity every single day. Even one small step taken with faith is more powerful than 1,000 intentions delayed by doubt. So act, not out of fear, but out of reverence for this gift called life. Serve, not to impress the world, but to honor the soul within you. And trust, because when you walk with faith, strength walks with you. Happiness is not in comfort. Success is not in speed. True fulfillment is in living responsibly, gratefully, and consciously. And when you put God first, laziness naturally takes the last place. Live with awareness, act with faith, and let your life become your prayer.